This is the Football Podcast with your hosts, Tyler, Andy, and Boyer.
Welcome back to Fantasy Football Podcast, presented by the Performance Enhancing Dads. I'm your host, Tyler, the best dad. Then you got Stu.
Hi.
And the shitty Boyer.
That's hurtful.
What's going on, fellas? How you guys feeling?
Good.
I was
tired.
A little hurt now.
A little hurt now on my fault. I didn't mean to make fun of you. Maybe. All right, well.
Ty's just mad because his team shit the bed.
Whoa, hold on. Come on. All right. Let's get into the
54 points not shitting the bed?
So it wasn't even a solid turd. It was a mess everywhere. He's going to have to wash those sheets twice.
Ladder on the underside of the toilet seat.
All right. That was my team this week. Let's see what kind of trades happened this week that didn't include my shitty team. Andy sold Chuba Hubbard to Paul for $1 and 10 fab. Andy, you want to just run us down that one real quick?
Yeah, Paul came asking for Chuba, and I was like, I don't know, man. I'm just holding him, hoping for the best, and your team's really good, and I don't know that I want to make sure that you stay good even if McCaffrey gets hurt. And I think he offered me 15 fab or something. I was like, nah. Then he went up to 20 and said that was as high as he was going to go. I was like, oh, I'm good. I'm going to sit. And I came back to him the next day. I was like, I'd do it for 10 and a draft dollar. Like, give me something for next year, a little something extra for this year. And he said he would do that. But I also got Rashad Bateman out of it because Paul had to trade me somebody. And I'm going to hold on to him and see what happens because he should be coming back in a week or two.
Yeah, I was shocked that he threw him in on that. But good work.
He had to get rid of somebody, and his team's stacked even on his bench. So, yeah, what are you going to do?
Yep. No, I get it. Good. I mean, good hold on that. I'd be holding him too.
I mean, his bench right now is Chase Edmonds, Dallas Goedert. He's holding ETN as a keeper. And then he's got Marvin Jones and Chuba Hubbard. And Marvin Jones has been good. So I don't blame him for flipping me Bateman, but I'll hold the upside. I don't have to play him.
Yep. And you're all about your starters anyway. So your bench is,
yeah,
mediocre at best.
I mean, doesn't have to be good.
That's right. So let's jump into the weirdest trade we've maybe ever had in Fantasy. Jeremy gets Kenyon Drake and the Bucs defense for Pittsburgh defense, New Orleans defense, 8 fab, and 3 draft dollars with Paul. First off, I don't think I've ever seen more than one defense traded in a deal, let alone 3 defenses in the same deal. And it wasn't even a 3-way trade. It was, hey, you're holding 2 defenses, I'm holding 1. Let's just flip them. And then Kenyon Drake got thrown in there. Any thoughts on this one other than it's all sorts of fucked up because we're trading 3 defenses?
Go ahead, Boyer.
I was a little surprised with the defenses, but I was also a little surprised. I feel like the defenses swap is probably pretty even, but the 3 draft dollars and 8 fab or whatever it was essentially for Kenyon Drake seems high to me, considering that Kenyon Drake had all the opportunity in the world last week with the Jacobs injury to show us why he's making $10 million this year, and he didn't show it. So as a running back needy team, I was looking at Drake as a potential trade candidate. And after this week, I wasn't even going to approach him. I was going to wait and see. So I feel like it's a little high. I feel like Jeremy could have gotten Drake for cheaper than that. Unless he's way valuing the Bucs defense and is expecting, some of that DD and fab to be for the Bucs, but doesn't seem like it to me.
And so here's the thing. I know Paul came to Andy with Drake for Chuba. He came to me with Drake for AJ Dillon. And not only that, he started coming at me, hey, I'll give you 10 fab for AJ Dillon. No, I'm not taking 10 fab for AJ
How much
Dillon.
did you spend on him? Like $9?
I think 10.
Yeah, he was not a dollar guy like Chuba was. And he's productive sometimes.
Yeah, I mean,
Like on his own. Chuba's not. I mean, Chuba's just a strict handcuff, but AJ Dillon gets carries.
Aaron Jones is not going to put up 4 touchdowns like he did last week, moving forward every week. I mean, Dillon's going to get some work moving through the season. I'm not worried about that. But he's trying to sell Kenyon Drake literally as just an extra piece. He's like, I'll give you 10 fab for AJ Dillon. I'm like, no way. He's like, what else do you want? I'm like, more than that. Like, I want draft dollars. I want a player. Well, I'll just throw you Kenyon Drake too. Literally, Kenyon Drake was Paul's drop piece. So had he had to move to grab a waiver wire anybody, Drake was being dropped. So as much as Paul wants to talk up Drake and, Drake's going to be the guy there because Jacobs can't stay healthy. I mean, we saw it this week. He wasn't the guy. They're going to throw the ball. Derek Carr leads the league in air yards. I mean, he has the most passing yards by far. So if Jacobs is out, it makes no difference if they have Kenyon Drake or not. They're going to throw the ball. So I'm not buying into that. But anyway, way to unload him on Jeremy. Jeremy, I hope he plays a game for you this year since you spent $3 on him.
Yeah. The only thing I'll add is Drake has played against the Ravens and the Steelers, who both have a decent enough defense. And he's averaged 6.25 points a game so far. But I'm with you that he didn't really show us anything in the week where Jacobs was out. So that doesn't make you feel good. But also, Jeremy doesn't need a spare running back. Jeremy's got at least 3 options at running back, maybe more if you want to consider Ingram as an option. But he's got Mixon, he's got Latavius Murray, he's got Darrell Henderson, he's got Mark Ingram, and now he has Kenyon Drake. Why are you spending 3 draft dollars on your 5th running back? Even if you want to consider him your 3rd running back ahead of Latavius Murray and Mark Ingram, you're never playing a running back in your flex because you've got Godwin and Jefferson and Lockett and fucking Allen Robinson sitting on your bench. So, I mean, I've talked about Jeremy pissing money into the wind because he did it this draft and now he's doing it next draft too, just for this bench that he's never using. So, congrats on having an extra point on your bye week over Mark Ingram or whoever you're worried about, but I don't get it.
All right. Anyway, let's move on. So Jarvis Landry, an injury in news, Jarvis Landry is going to hit the IR, opening up some targets, maybe for Kareem Hunt to come out and grab some extra, maybe for Felton to grab that slot. I mean, they've got plenty of options, plenty of things they can do with Landry being out. I'm not worried about them. OBJ may or may not be coming back. I'm not high. I don't think he's going to this week.
Sounds like he's going to, based on the things that he's saying. Obviously, he's not been like ruled in officially, but when Landry went down, some of the tweets he was sending out was basically like, I'll take it from here. And I know I was surprised to see him out week 2. I didn't think that this was that severe of an injury. So I'll be very surprised if he's not out there on Sunday.
I mean, they were playing the Texans week 2, so they might have just been cautious, thinking that they were going to have enough to beat the Texans anyway.
Yeah, that's probably fair.
Tua out along with every other quarterback at some point during this week, apparently. A whole bunch of quarterbacks went out for at least a little while. Tua with the broken ribs, though, he's going to be out for a handful of weeks. That doesn't bode well for Miami.
Honestly, I think Jacoby Brissett is serviceable enough. It's not like Tua was balling out I'm not
Yeah.
super worried about the guys there. The favorite might change. Jacoby Brissett might throw more to Devontae Parker or Fuller coming back, whereas Tua is probably looking for Waddle because they've got that relationship. But I think on the whole, Miami put up a goose egg last week, so it doesn't really matter that much. It's not getting worse than what Tua was doing.
Yeah. Tyrod's out. Davis Mills in. I don't think that
Who?
really. I mean,
He's the
a-
cereal guy. He makes all the cereals.
so that's a downgrade to an already shitty team. And AB did test positive for COVID, so I do imagine he is out at least this week.
Whoops.
So there's that.
One other one. Derek Carr is questionable for this week.
He's been ruled in.
Has he? Okay, that's good.
I just checked it. He had an MRI today. They said he's good to go.
Well, that makes me feel better because Ty picked up the Dolphins defense, and the backup to Derek Carr is Nathan Peterman. So I'm glad that you don't have the Dolphins defense against Peterman.
Mariota's hurt, Ty. Mariota's hurt.
I didn't pick up the Dolphins defense. I've always had them.
Oh, well, that's your mistake. I assumed you were trying to stream and be cute because Carr was hurt.
No. I'm just bad at this game.
Fair.
All right.
Put up
anyway.
56 points last week.
All right. Anyway, also Andy Dalton out, Justin Fields starting. You all knew that, being Chicago people.
Yeah.
But we'll see what happens from there with the Bears. You're still the Bears. So, all right, Boyer, you want to jump into last week's recap? Just get my game of 56 points, and we won't talk about it.
Okay, I'll do my best, but I made notes to make fun of you specifically, so
all right, go ahead.
I won't. All right, we're gonna start with Robby versus Andy in a barn burner. Robby got 41.7 from Derrick Henry and 22 from the Buffalo D, putting the week just out of reach from Andy, despite Andy getting double-digit points from all but 2 of his roster spots. In the end, Hawkinson and Green Bay defense couldn't get it done on Monday night. Andy lost 123.92 to 119.02. Duo versus Walker. It looked like early that neither team really wanted to win this one, but Walker got 26.8 points from the player his team is named after on Monday Night Football. Aaron Rodgers was able to take home 82 and change to 75 and change in a week 2 win.
Real quick on that one. Duo, we told you to start Sutton over Landry. That's a 15-point swing. So that's on you guys.
Favorite matchup here, Paul versus Ty. It wasn't even a contest. Ty's team underperformed across the board with only 1 player in double digits, just barely, and that was Higgins with exactly 10 points. Paul looked to keep his juggernaut status and delivered. CMC and Aaron Jones combined for 55.2 points. For those keeping score, that means those 2 players could beat Ty by themselves. And then he still had Mahomes, who was Mahomes. Tampa Bay D chipped in for 19 points, and Gronk is good again. Paul in the blowout of the week, 147.62 to 54.68.
Almost won by 100 points, Paul. You suck.
Chris and Colin, it's kind of a stinker where Colin took an early lead, led by Matthew Stafford and Najee Harris on his team. Tua's injury may have cost Chris a win as he was in striking distance, but Miami's offense stalled, and his kicker Jason Sanders laid an egg. Colin won that one 82.42 to 71.7. We'll move on to Jeremy and Charlie. Kyler Murray looks better every week with a supporting fantasy cast of Justin Jefferson, Godwin, Henderson, all looked good on this team. It helps when Lockett gets 23 points. Can't guarantee that every week, but so far it's been the case. Charlie put up a good showing after a rough week 1 with a bounce back game from Eckler and Elliott. Lamar put up 32.16 points on Sunday night, but it was never going to be enough. Jeremy 117 and changed to 103. Then we will move to me and Fryer. Cup keeps Stafford happy in bed, and the result is that he keeps getting the touchdowns. If only my running backs would show up for work on Sunday. But despite a non-existent running back spots, Jameis Winston, I was able to put up a respectable week, but the luck isn't there this year for me, guys. Fryer scores big with Brady and Evan stack, a running back group that actually tried, and the New England defense facing a rookie quarterback. That's going to put Fryer up 116.14 to 91.14.
All right, two things real quick. One, for all of our listeners out there, don't stream against the Lions. Their offensive line is really, really good. I forgot about that. Picking the Packers for my streaming defense was a bad choice. Lions offensive line is good. Two, I am from here on out referring to Stafford and Cup as bed and breakfast.
All right.
How about one Stafford, one Cup?
No, that's gross. Bed and breakfast. Feel free to join me or not, but that's what we're gonna do. That's what I'm calling them.
All right. So starting into things we learned this week, Andy is calling people bed and breakfast moving forward. But what did you actually learn from the NFL this week, Andy?
Oh, I'm going with something straight from our league because I think it's fun and nobody else will. Well, Boyer will. Colin and Charlie might. Robby and Fryer might. So far, half of our league is averaging less than 90 points a week, which is pretty bad. Half of the league. There's 3 teams in the middle division averaging less than 90 points a week, and there's 3 teams in the bottom division averaging less than 90 points a week. So,
But Andy, what about the top division?
you know, if you look at the top division, and I'm looking here now, everybody in the top division averages more than 90 points a week. In fact, 3 of the top division averages 100 points a week or more. Can't say that about the other divisions. That's what I learned this week.
Yeah, if I didn't fit the bed, I'd be there, but it's fine. It's week 2. It's fine. Wait till this week. I'm gonna bounce back. My average, it'll take a little bit longer since I had a bad week, but I'll be there. All right, leave me alone.
What'd you learn, Ty? What do you got?
I'm still learning that you just never invest in the Niners backfield because every player on that team disappears with an injury during the week. I think
Talked
they're
about
on
that
their,
before.
yeah. Well, I'm learning it again because I can't just, I can't stay off of it. How does Sermon goes out with a concussion? Mitchell goes out with a shoulder. Hasty goes out. They bring in 4 other free agents this week. I don't know what to do with that backfield. The Dolphins looked awful this week. I think they're going to be bad this week. Their defense, I thought they were going to be okay, coming off last year, and I don't know how much I'm banking on them anymore. So those are my couple things. Boyer, what do you got?
The Jets are still the Jets. They've got a lot of new shiny pieces, but underneath that exterior is still the Jets. So I do expect them to be better at times than what we've seen. They won't be complete dumpster fire all year, but they're still the Jets. You can pretty much stream whatever defense is playing against them and feel pretty confident. They might have a tiny bit more of offensive output going into this year, but they're still there. And I know there was a lot of fantasy hype about the offense and what they could do, and maybe they would be okay. And I don't see it.
I don't either.
All right. So let's jump into week 3 matchups. Boyer, you want to start with my matchup versus Andy?
Yeah. So let me pull that up.
Be a good idea.
Yep. All right. So just kind of looking position by position. Prescott against Philly, Herbert against KC. Prescott struggled a little bit against the Chargers last week, and Philly's defense is surprisingly good. I'm gonna make a prediction that Prescott is under 16 points again this week. As far it is on Monday night, so we'll see how it goes. But I think Philly's defense is for real. They've got a crazy good defensive line, so I'll give the edge to Andy on that. Ty's got CeeDee Lamb.
Sponsors are attacking again.
Ty's got CeeDee Lamb and Tyreek Hill at his wide receiver spot. It's definitely better than Andy's McLaurin and Mike Williams, although Mike Williams has gotten a lot of volume so far this year. He hasn't done well in the past against Kansas City, but he's also averaging 10 targets a week, I think, at this point. So he could be a surprise. But I mean, I would take Tyreek Hill and CeeDee Lamb pretty much any week over those receivers. Ty does have a Gibson and Swift so right now in his running back spot. Andy has Nick Chubb, and he's put in Javonte Williams at running back 2. Williams does have the Jets. And what did I tell you guys about what I learned? The Jets are still the Jets. So I like the change, Andy, especially with the Browns playing against
Bears.
Chicago. So I wouldn't expect Hunt to get all the work necessarily, not like he did in a shootout against Kansas City. I like Andy's running backs better. Andy's got Kelsey. Ty starts. Who is this guy? Jay Smith. Who is that, Ty? I'm so confused. What tight ends are you starting right now?
It's like John Doe.
I haven't heard of him this year yet, so we're still praying for this breakout game.
So we'll take the top tight ends there against whatever garbage Ty is trying to start.
Not the top tight ends.
Andy's got Hawkinson, which would be really helpful for Ty right now in his flex. Ty's right now got T. Higgins playing against tough Pitt D. They both have kickers and defenses. Do we want to go to start sits?
Sure.
So start sits, looking at Ty in the flex. Ty, are you looking at keeping Higgins there, or does Saquon fit into your plans here at all for week 3?
Well, so here's the problem. Higgins sat from practice. They're saying that they're not really disclosing what's happening. They're just saying his status may be up in the air for the week. So if he's not playing, I'm not playing. I mean, I don't know.
That's fair.
I'm definitely going to find a way to get Saquon into the lineup this week. Whether it's moving Gibson against Buffalo, moving Swift against Baltimore. Saquon has the easiest matchup of my 3 running backs with Atlanta. So Saquon will be in my lineup somewhere.
Let's pretend Higgins is in. Which one of Higgins, Swift, and Gibson are you sitting? Just right now. It's Wednesday, so won't hold you to it.
I mean, it'll to be honest, it might be Gibson. He's had a rough couple games to start. Buffalo's got a good defense. They're going into Buffalo. Gibson may be my sit. As hard as that is to say for me, he may be the guy out this week, depending. But Higgins has Pittsburgh, and that's a good defense too. So,
yeah, Andy, help him out. What should he do?
If it's me and it's my team, if it's my team, I wouldn't have 6 questionables on my roster right now. But it's Ty's team, so it's pretty standard protocol on a Wednesday. If it's me, I'm starting the 3 running backs. Fuck T. Higgins. He's not that exciting. I know Gibson's been down. I know Buffalo defense has been good, but no way am I benching Antonio Gibson and then watching him go off for 25 points on my bench. That's not going to happen with T. Higgins. Maybe Gibson gets you 8 and Higgins gets you 12, and you go, shoot, 4 points. But it's not going to happen the other way around. So I'm playing the running backs.
Yeah, and to be fair, Andy's team has been a consistent high-scoring team. So I think keeping Gibson on there for the upside over Higgins probably makes sense. Looking at one other roster question for you, Ty. We've already hit it on it a little bit. Any plans on defense, or just rolling Miami, or
we'll see what happens.
You want to try and do like a defense for like 2 or 3 or 4 other defense swap?
Yeah, those guys are flying around. It only costs you 3 or 4 draft cash next year to pick up a quality defense, apparently.
I have something in mind right now, but we'll just see we'll have to see what happens coming forward here.
All right, that seems fair.
That'd be the
Ian?
Cardinals defense because they're on waivers. They got dropped. They're up against
Um,
Jacksonville.
I mean, how else do I say I've got something else in mind without saying, hey, check the waiver wire. There's one defense out.
So if anybody wants the Cardinals defense, so does Ty.
When did that one go through? Friday? You guys all hear this before that.
Andy talked about it a little bit already. I like who you have at running back too, but that's really your only question mark, Javonte versus Hunt. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think I like what I've been seeing out of Javonte. I expect the Broncos to be winning that game as they have been in their other games thus far. So in the season, so I'm projecting 12 to 15 carries for Javonte, and maybe they let him loose a little bit more if it's if it's a comfortable game. So hopefully we see some of that. I liked my first 2 weeks having Chubb and Hunt both in the lineup just because then I don't have to be mad when one vultures a touchdown from the other one. Like, okay, well, I got it either way. Well, week 1, Landry had a touchdown, and then last week somebody else had a rushing touchdown. So still annoying, but it'll suck if, Hunt has 2 touchdowns on my bench and Chubb just has 120 yards and no touchdowns, but that's life. I think that Javonte makes the most sense this week. I think that to the untrained eye, somebody could try to talk me out of starting Hawkinson and putting Hunt in at my flex. But if you look at Baltimore and who they've played so far this year, week 1, they had Darren Waller get 19 targets and 10 catches and all the crap that he did. And then last week they had Travis Kelce go for 16 fantasy points. So I'm starting a tight end against Baltimore 7 days out of 7. And
Andy,
twice on Sundays.
Andy, I want to try and force a prediction out of you.
Please.
Hunt against the Texans, probably a similar game script against the Texans as they might have against the Bears, still had 13 carries. Do you think Hunt or Javonte will have more, we'll say, carries this week?
I thought that 13 carries for Hunt was surprising, especially Chubb only had 11, which was odd to me. So I don't expect that split to go. I don't expect it to be close to 50-50 most weeks, let alone skew in Hunt's favor. So I expect 15 to 18 out of Chubb and 7 or 8 out of Hunt, and we'll go from there. So those are my numbers: 15 to 18 and 7 to 8.
Fair enough.
I would agree with that. To be honest, when you asked it, I immediately said Javonte against the Jets is going to get more than Chubb, because Chubb's not normally the running.
Right. This is, to me, I was looking at the stats and I just found it super interesting that Hunt got 13 attempts last week, and it was in a positive game script that you would expect Chubb to be getting the carries in. So if we're expecting something similar, are we expecting Hunt to get that too? I don't know if they're trying to save Chubb for later in the season type of things, what we're kind of expecting Javonte to do for Melvin and his game, but I thought that was wild that he got 13 attempts. I don't know how many times he'll hit that this year.
Yeah. And realistically, back to my lineup, I draft running backs every year. I'll probably play 3, but it's always a question mark of what I want to do.
Well, your whole team's got the Q next to it, so
right.
Sometimes those decisions are made for you by the team doctors.
All right, let's take a quick prediction on who's going to win this one, and then we'll move on.
I'm going to go with Andy.
Thanks, bud. I got me too.
I'm going to take me to beat Andy this week.
It's a tall order, Ty.
Saquon's going to come back and have a hell of a game against Atlanta. Atlanta's not good.
I think
Saquon's going to be there.
You're also going to need Tyreek Hill to have a big game too.
Saquon to save. Well, apparently, because Dak's not going to have a good game, which means CD's going to be down too, huh? My team's in trouble. I got enough firepower. I'm going to take this one. I need it. We're gonna get a little winning streak going here. I played Jeremy. I played Paul. I got Andy, and I got Fryer next week. Whoever makes the schedule hates
me. I'm sorry. Are you worried about playing Fryer next week?
I mean, he's got a decent team. Whether or not they perform is a different story.
Fair enough.
I feel the same way about my team. All right, let's move on. Andy, take us into Jeremy versus Walker.
All right. So Jeremy has Kyler Murray against the Jacksonville Jaguars, and it's going to be a letdown game. Kyler isn't going to need to do all the things that he's done in the first 2 weeks of the year. He's currently projected for 25 fantasy points. I don't think he hits that. I think that's pretty high. Right side, though, Lockett against Minnesota. Rashad Breeland sucks at his job. So that's going to be another big game for Tyler Lockett. Justin Jefferson against Seattle, and then Chris Godwin against the Rams. I'm going to jump straight to my my lineup decision for Jeremy. Godwin against the Rams with Antonio Brown out, or Allen Robinson against Cleveland, or Kenyon Drake or Mark Ingram or Darrell Henderson. So let's assume that his flex is Chris Godwin or Allen Robinson. I think with Antonio Brown being out, that's probably a little bit of good news for Godwin because it forces more targets his way. But of the two, I think that Godwin's more likely to see Ramsey, which bothers me as a smart person. So I am going to lean towards Allen Robinson over Chris Godwin this week. What do you guys think there?
So my concern here, Justin Fields looked mediocre last week. I know a lot of Bears fans were like, Justin Fields is in. I don't.
Have you met Andy Dalton?
Well, I don't disagree, but if the defense didn't save the Bears last week, they would have lost that game.
Sure, but that doesn't matter to Allen Robinson.
Fields had a couple good throws. Robinson let the one go straight through his hands last week.
That doesn't happen often.
No, it doesn't. But I'm just not sure. I'm just not sure that I want to trust that combination this week. I am not sold on Fields yet. I know that he was coming off Dalton. I know that he comes off all these shitty quarterbacks because he's never had a good one ever throwing him the ball. But I'm gonna trust Godwin with Brady, even against the Rams defense, because I think they're going to just continue to throw the ball all game long, like they have been, which gives Godwin a higher upside, in my opinion. So I'm taking Godwin and I'm leaving him there.
Boyer, what do you think?
So the one thing I will say, Justin Fields, not only did Allen Robinson drop that one pass, he dropped another pass and Mooney dropped a pass. Fields, he was throwing the ball well enough, and it should have been, I mean, he should have had a better day than he did. So I'm not really too worried about that. I do think that Robinson has a decent floor. Fields should target Allen Robinson early and often. The question is, will Nagy let him, because he might get cute and do something stupid. But I would imagine Robinson will have the floor. The Browns secondary it's a good secondary. It's a good defense. Godwin without AB on the team, at least available for the Rams game. The Rams are tough. Godwin had 13 targets in week 1, only 5 in week 2. I think that the probability of him bouncing back is pretty high. The nice thing for Jeremy is he doesn't need a high upside week here to beat Walker. He just needs points. So I would go with Allen Robinson on the off chance that the Rams are able to shut down Godwin and take him out of the game. I would go with the guaranteed probably 7 or 8 points and let the rest of your team beat Walker's, I don't know, 3 guys that he's got. So I'd go with Robinson, but purely just because of the rest of the players on Jeremy's team. I think Godwin is, I would pick Godwin on my team where I need the upside, but I think Robinson for Jeremy.
Yep, I agree with everything you said, Boyer. So coming back to it, Jeremy also has a decision at RB2 that he doesn't normally have because Henderson's playing the Bucks, which we've talked about how horrendous the Bucks are for opposing running backs. So he's currently got Latavius Murray slotted in there at RB2 against the Lions, which isn't bad, but Murray's the second guy on his team. You got Mark Ingram against the Panthers, who've had a good defense so far. And then you got your shiny new toy, Kenyon Drake, fresh off of 7 carries for 9 yards last week. So, you made that investment. Is that the direction that you go? You guys, we can go through this one quicker. Given the choice between Henderson and a tough matchup or any of those other 3 guys, Murray, Ingram, or Drake, which way are you going?
I'm not confident in Henderson this week just because he does have the rib cartilage issue. They say they're optimistic that he's going to play, but to be honest, are they going to risk a season-long issue on a game against Tampa Bay? Odds are they're going to be throwing the ball a lot regardless. So I'm sticking away from Henderson this week. Latavius Murray against Detroit, I think, is your best bet. I can't start Drake even against Miami this
week. Yeah, I'm not starting Drake. I'm not starting Ingram. I'm gonna pick my best guy, assuming that the injury news for Darrell Henderson comes back positive and that they don't come out and say, yeah, he'll probably be on some sort of attempt count or whatever it is. If they come out and say, yeah, he's ready to play, he's going to be our starter, we're confident in what he can do, I'm going to play Henderson regardless. He's going to have more attempts. He's got more yards, which is kind of indicative of what the floor is for him. Latavius Murray hasn't gotten a lot of attempts. He hasn't gotten a lot of yards. He's gotten touchdowns the last 2 weeks. Chances of Baltimore having red zone attempts against the Lions defense, probably pretty good. But is it a guarantee that that's going to happen? I'm going to say no. So I'm going to go with
Murray's had 10 attempts and 9 attempts. So that's coming in off of just being picked up there. I mean, is his workload going to get higher or not? If he can get double-digit touches,
I doubt that he does.
He's turned that into 28 and 36 yards.
Yeah,
he's touchdown dependent.
Yeah, there's too many running backs and Lamar Jackson in Baltimore right now for him to hit double digits, I think. So 8 or 9 is probably his max. And as Andy said, he's hit 20, 30 yards with that, even if he's a little bit more efficient, maybe 40 yards. But if he doesn't get the touchdown, you get 3 or 4 points from that spot. And again, assuming Henderson's injury news comes back, relatively positive, that's who I'm going to start because he should have more of an opportunity. Obviously, if his comes back and they're like, yeah, he's in trouble, he'll be available for us, but we don't know what we're going to do, then Lamar's probably his best option.
Yep, I agree with everything Boyer said. I think of the bunch, Latavius Murray is probably going to score the most points because I believe he gets that touchdown this week. But in the same way that I don't want Godwin to get the Ramsey treatment and goose egg me and give back what is probably a pretty big advantage against Walker this week because Jeremy's got a significantly better team. I want the steady Eddie, the volume that I'm expecting Robinson to get from Fields. I want the volume out of Henderson, again, assuming that he's healthy and starting. That backfield has gone almost entirely to him. Sony Michel hasn't done squat except for when Henderson's been hurt. So I think that I would risk 15 carries for 50 yards and no touchdown out of Henderson just to lock in 5 points and not have to worry about getting 9 carries for 22 yards and no touchdown out of Latavius Murray. Even though I think that touchdown's there for him this week, if the 2 points is your floor, I think Henderson's floor is higher than that, even against the Bucks. So I want to lock in that higher floor, and that's the way that I would go if I'm Jeremy.
Henderson has both the higher floor and the higher ceiling because if he plays and he gets that carries, he's relatively efficient, gets a touchdown, which he's also done the first 2 weeks of the season. He's got both the higher floor and the higher ceiling.
Yeah, Henderson's actually RB6 right now, which doesn't matter when you play against the Bucks, but he is RB6 right now, right between Dalvin Cook and Joe Mixon. So he's had a good first couple weeks.
And just so we're on the same page, I said I'm playing Murray because I am worried about Henderson's health.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I understand exactly where you guys are coming from, but I'm playing Murray just because I don't think Henderson's going to be fully healthy for this game.
Fair.
If he's fully healthy, like you guys are saying, sure, we're playing Henderson, but I don't think that's going to be the case.
Yeah, I think the injury report on Saturday is going to make Jeremy's decision for him.
So you guys want predictions? I'm taking my shot on saying Murray today because this is when I make predictions.
Fair.
Attaboy. I appreciate you.
All right, let's move on to Walker.
Yeah, so Walker's got players. They're not attractive players, but they play. Right now he's got Cooper in his flex, but that's because he's in the Monday night game. Pro tip: start your last player game time wise in your flex, so that if anything were to happen, you can make adjustments. But I think DJ Chark is probably his true flex. If he was gonna sit somebody in his current lineup, it would be Chark, and then he could put in Fournette or Pollard, Christian Kirk, AJ Green. I think it really comes down to Fournette or DJ Chark. I would lean towards Fournette, but I am not super jazzed about either of these guys. So Fournette, hoping for a touchdown. That's what I'm going for. Boyer, what do you think?
Oh boy. I mean, I don't like Chark. I haven't all season. But looking at the matchups of his other potential options here, Fournette against the Rams, Pollard against Philly, who I like their defense. Christian Kirk against Jacksonville is interesting, but I mean, who knows? Outside of Hopkins, it's going to flip between a few different receivers that they have as far as who has a big game, and they could go up early and not have to throw as much. So I'm gonna put Chark in against Arizona. Maybe some garbage time. He should see enough volume that he gets the points. I don't think he has a ton of upside, but I'm going to keep Chark in there.
Okay, Ty, Chark or Fournette or somebody else? You're a Chark guy.
I I am probably keeping it as it is. To be honest with you, if Mike Davis wasn't playing the Giants this week, I would consider taking Mike Davis out for a Tony Pollard or Fournette. But because they have the Giants and the Giants defense isn't great, I am going to stick that way. But other than that, I think Chark is your best option, especially with Cooper should be back. But he's also dealing with a rib injury. So you have to keep him in your flex until you know, which leaves Chark as your only option. I'm not starting Christian Kirk over Chark. So I don't think it's a choice. I think his lineup is as it is. And if we find out last minute Cooper's out, he throws Tony Pollard in as the flex.
Yeah, I think that's a good call.
So.
All right, over y'all picking Jeremy?
Yep.
Yep, Jeremy.
Me too. All right, next.
Next. Sorry, Walker. You did win a week. Good work. All right, so we're going to jump to Chris and Charlie here. This is going to be a great matchup. I am still not sold on Jalen Hurts for Chris. He's got Dallas though, which is a good matchup. I know he's had 28 and 21 fantasy points. I know he's put up the numbers. But if somebody can contain him from running and having that, I mean, last week he put up 190 points and no touchdowns through the air. I mean, if you can contain that, you could hold Hurts down a lot more. I like Lamar Jackson against Detroit. For Charlie, Devontae Adams and AJ Brown versus Keenan Allen and Devonta Smith. I'm definitely taking the Adams and Brown side. Even though Adams hasn't been great, he did put up good yardage last week. He's yet to get his touchdown. But those are going to be coming. although he does play the Niners, and I hope he doesn't get a whole bunch of touchdowns this week. I think he'll get one. Kamara and James Robinson versus Eckler and Elliott. That's going to Charlie with Eckler and Elliott. Tanyan versus Cook. I'm going to probably take Tanyan just because he's got the upside. The flex currently is Elijah Mitchell versus Melvin Gordon. And what to do with that, with Elijah Mitchell possibly going to be in a more timeshare because of his injury, because everybody in that team is injured. I don't know what they're going to do at running back. I also don't necessarily expect, well, maybe Melvin Gordon will be there. But then they both got kickers and defenses. With that, we have for Chris, you got Robinson, Gordon, or Singletary for that RB2 spot. If you guys don't like Robinson, do you guys think Robinson stays there? Does he move Gordon in there? Does he put Singletary in against Washington?
So I don't think I'm playing Singletary against Washington this week, even though he's had a couple of really good games so far. I think Melvin Gordon in the flex, or Melvin Gordon at RB2, given his matchup, makes sense, which would then bump Robinson down to the flex. And you could talk about Jamar Chase against the Steelers in a game where they're probably going to be throwing, which is, I think, the way that I would lean. I would go Jamar Chase over James Robinson in the flex.
Okay. Boyer, what are you doing about the running back situation first? And then would you throw a Jamar Chase in there over the leftover running backs for the flex?
Yeah, in almost any other matchup, I would be very tempted to put Singletary in, but that Washington defense is for real, so we don't want to do that. I'm going to agree with Andy. I think Melvin Gordon is a clear start, which moves Robinson to the flex. Robinson hasn't done much. He's been splitting time. I just don't get what Urban Meyer is doing with that. I really just don't. And he's almost unstartable until we get a few more weeks in, and maybe Urban Meyer starts to go to him. But James Robinson is now kind of a prove-it player. He's got to prove that he can put fantasy points on the board before you start him. Jamar Chase has done so. He's got, even if he only got 5 targets, you could hit one big play and make a difference on your team. So I'm going Jamar Chase. I'm going to go with Andy here.
Yeah, especially, and I know a lot of the Steelers defense guys were out last week, but I mean, Derek Carr torched his team, and Henry Ruggs had 7 targets, 5 catches, 113 and a touchdown. I think Chase can do that.
I mean, and we're also looking at Higgins maybe being out or limited, which means it's going to be Chase and Boyd, and Chase has the talent to do it.
And why is he going to be out or limited? Because he's on Tyler's team.
Because they won't disclose what's going on with him. And he had a dehydration issue. He went out for a little while last week. I don't know.
An STD.
I'm waiting for teams to hear this podcast and start paying Tyler to trade their players away from his team to prevent injuries. Like, you're going to get a call from the Bengals one day, be like, listen, if you move Higgins off your team, we'll give you like $2,000.
We'll pay for your internet.
They're invested in the future. Anyway, I am actually going to take Melvin Gordon out of this lineup, even though he plays the Jets. They were straight even split. They were a straight even split. 13 for 31 last week, 11 for 101 and a touchdown the week before.
But that was a 70-yard touchdown.
That was a 70-yard touchdown. So 11 for not 101 and a touchdown. I'm not banking on those long yard runs every week, right? Last week, 13 for 31 didn't look good. The week before, let's say 10 for 30 before he busted off his long run. I think Javonte starts to take more work from him. James Robinson was on the field more, did have more touches last week. I think they are realizing they have to play Robinson and have to give him the ball. I think I think he's going to up his snap count again this week. I think he'll end up having minimum 15 touches, which 15 touches, yeah, against Arizona defense, which is solid. I think 15 touches out of James Robinson is startable. So I am actually going to keep James Robinson in that running back 2 spot. And I am going to play Devin Singletary in the flex.
Ooh, okay.
So
Washington's defense overall hasn't been near as good as advertised, but they have been shutting down the run. So
yeah, their line
Ballsy.
is good. Their secondary not great. I understand that, but Buffalo has a great offense,
That's true.
and I think they realized last week that if they can get Singletary moving, that offense just opens up. So I think they're going to try to get Singletary moving again. And Zach Moss vultured 2 touchdowns last week. So Singletary could have a bigger game this week. So I'm not starting Chase. I'm starting my 3 running backs here. And we're going with that. So there's my my off the wall take. So
I love you, Ty. That's why we keep you around.
you don't like my take, but I'm taking it.
Hey, Ty, Off the Wall was the other channel.
Oh, listen. I'm taking this performance enhancing dad take. All right. All right. So really going to Charlie. There's not a whole lot to talk about here outside of maybe that wide receiver 2 flex spot. In my mind, as long as Mitchell's healthy, you're playing Mitchell because Green Bay run defense isn't great. So assuming health, Mitchell's staying there in my mind. So let's talk about wide receiver 2 spot. You got Devonta Smith. You could go to Boyd if Higgins is going to be out. And then you got Aguilar would be the only other real option there. Are you guys making any moves to this lineup, or are you guys keeping this as is? Because there's not a lot of bench depth here to really make any big moves.
Yeah. Man, Charlie, I really hate the way your roster looks right now. Yeah, I'm with you, Ty. There's nothing you can do. I don't think that I'm playing Boyd over Smith, with Smith going up against Dallas. The bummer with Devonta Smith is that if he gets anything, it's coming from Jalen Hurts, but that helps you mitigate some of the damage that Chris could do to you on Monday night. So you just don't have options. You're stashing a practice squad Le'Veon Bell. You've got do nothing Adam Troutman on your bench. You've got somebody else's handcuff with Alexander Madison, and you've got a quarterback that you're never starting because you have Lamar Jackson. So unfuck your bench, Charlie, and get guys that we can actually talk about in here because you have no choices week to week.
Boyer, you're pretty much agreeing with that, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I mean, Boyd wouldn't be a bad option, but against Pitt, his style doesn't fit against a tough defense like Pittsburgh. We've seen teams be able to go over the top a little bit on Pittsburgh, but they generally will play at the line of scrimmage tougher. Boyd plays a little bit in that first 15-yard range. I don't think he has a big game, although he's got a pretty high floor. And Nelson Aguilar, again, may have been a good matchup, but I think the New Orleans defense is still pretty good. So I don't really want to play him. Devonta has the best matchup. He's a little bit boom or bust, but I think you have to play him at wide receiver too. I don't think that you really have another option. And with how many wide receivers, are out there in the NFL who could play and could provide fantasy points, it's kind of amazing that Charlie doesn't have more wide receiver depth, but it is what it is. Play Devonta Smith.
And with how many running backs are on active rosters across 32 teams in the league, it's even more amazing that he has fucking Le'Veon Bell on his bench.
All right, fair enough.
Move us on, Ty.
I'm gonna agree. I'm gonna agree with everything you guys said, minus the Boyd has a good floor. Maybe if T. Higgins doesn't play, Boyd will have an okay floor this week, but week in and week out, I'm not agreeing with Boyd has a good floor. So, sorry, Boyer, I disagree with you on that one. Other than that, you're leaving your roster as is, assuming Mitchell's healthy and playing. You don't have any other options. So there you go. Who's winning this matchup? I'm taking Chris. Just because I don't necessarily like some of the tight end, the wide receiver 2 situation. I don't know about the flex situation. I think Charlie has too many question marks. I know, Andy, you just said Charlie, so
It's tough. Honestly, I think both of these teams underperformed this week. But it's a close matchup. But I'm going with Charlie.
Boyer.
I'm going to go with Charlie. He's got better matchups throughout his roster. Lamar against Detroit, Keenan Allen against the KC, Eckler against KC, I think might have a big game. Meanwhile, Chris has Kamara against New England, who plays that position tough. Devontae Adams against San Francisco is tough. Oh, and don't forget, Charlie has Mitchell and against Green Bay. And if he plays, 49ers love to run the ball against the Green Bay Packers. We've seen them run it for 200 yards in 2 or 3 straight games now against them. I could see big games from that. So I'm going to go with Charlie here. Fingers crossed.
All right. Well, I'm taking Chris. You guys got Charlie. So we're going to go ahead and disagree again. So with that, let's hit him with a little pow. What you drinking? Andy, you're throwing me off tonight. What's going on, man?
I'm back on the trying to be a little bit healthier than the sad sack shit that I have been. So I'm drinking water.
Don't drink your calories.
On that note, I'll be right.
You've had too much water tonight.
So you had the cryo hot pack from Hot Valley a couple weeks ago or so. I picked one up myself. This is the Stash Panda Hazy IPA. It's pretty good. They've got some. It's a solid pack.
So I went to Benny's the other day and picked up a whole bunch of beer, and just like Andy in the bathroom right now, I'm pantless. Alarmist Brewing. It's a pale ale, super good. So if you ever need, go pantless. Andy, we're drinking pantless over here.
I'll say,
I was peeing pantless. I could hear you. I just muted it so y'all didn't have to listen.
Jeremy was pantless last year, so good, solid photos.
That's right.
Hey, before we jump to the next matchup, can I get in with our matchup recap from last week? Because we forgot to do that.
Sure, might as well.
At
the end of all this too.
So the only difference last week was that Ty picked Chris to beat Colin, and Boyer and I picked Colin to beat Chris. Made me think of it because we both just picked Charlie and Ty picked Chris again. So Ty got 3 right, and Boyer and I got 4. Everybody picked me. Everybody picked Duo, and Duo and I lost. So that was the difference.
And everybody picked Paul, and he kicked the shit out of me. So
yeah, we all saw that coming.
I think that was predicted as like the matchup of the week by the commissioner. So,
sure.
Did we count that as red?
I think I said Jeremy and Charlie was going to be the matchup of the week. I did last week. I said I wanted to pick you, Ty. I thought you had some good matchups on your team.
It didn't work out.
It did not. No.
All right. Anyway, on that note, not a good week for me all the way around. Let's move on. Boyer, take off with Duo and Paul here.
Yep. Looking at Duo and Paul.
That's good. I'm glad you're looking at them because
starting at quarterbacks. I know you got to get your shots in because you're disappointed from last week, Ty. I get it. It's fine.
We're having performance problems, man.
That's not uncommon. It's fine. All right. So the Duo has Josh Allen against Washington. Paul's got Mahomes against the Chargers. We're going to take Mahomes. Normally I would take Mahomes, but the matchup is super for Mahomes. It should be a pretty good shootout against the Chargers. I would love to watch that game because I think that'll be a really entertaining game. Duo's got Calvin Ridley, who's already disappointed against the Giants, and Robert Woods, who is not in bed with Stafford against Tampa. That looks like a tough matchup. versus Paul Metcalf against Minnesota. The Seahawks have not figured out a way to get Metcalf super involved. I mean, he's been okay.
Haven't had to.
Well, to be honest, I think that it's a new offensive system. And I think that they're trying to work out exactly how they want their wide receivers to work. And I think the Russell Wilson, Tyler Lockett like connection that they've had over the course of several years is what's really been benefiting Lockett. I think this is the week that they get Metcalf really involved. Minnesota has been in a bunch of shootouts. Their secondary is not good. Their defense isn't great. I like Metcalf's matchup and him for this week. Debo against Green Bay. I'm going to go with Paul at the wide receiver end on both sides. The duo's got Chris Carson against Minnesota. He's got Miles Sanders against Dallas. Not bad matchups, not great running backs, but they should be able to put up their points. But it's not going to be McCaffrey against Houston and Aaron Jones against San Francisco. Aaron Jones might struggle a little bit, but because he can receive the ball so well, he should be fine. Duo's got good matchups there. I feel bad, but I mean, he's gonna run the league right now. We need to start praying for some injuries to his team. Otherwise, he's just gonna run this whole thing, just like Ty should have done. What was it, like 2016, when you had like David Johnson and Jordan Howard and all those players, and never mind.
And then David Johnson got injured week
Right.
one. Yeah,
That's what we need. That's
we're not
what
talking
the
about
league needs to bring balance back to the league. But Duo's got Logan Thomas, who I do like as pretty much the only number 2 receiving option in Washington. I think he'll prove to be fairly consistent. Rob Gronkowski against the Rams, I think, will be more touchdown dependent than he has been. He's actually put up a decent amount of yards the last couple matchups. He's put up 50, 60 yards, I think, per matchup or so.
90 and 40, but
90 and 40. So averaging, 50, right. 60. I don't think that happens this time. I'm going to go with Duo with Logan Thomas. I think might have a slightly better game. For Andy's purposes, Logan Thomas will have a better game than Rob Gronkowski. Sutton against the Jets and Chase Edmonds, and we'll talk about that flex spot for Paul against Jacksonville. I'm going to go with Sutton. I like his upside. There's not a lot for Denver to throw to, and they're going to have throwing opportunities against the Jets. And then they both start kickers and defenses, which I don't think gives them, like, there's no major matchups that I'm super stoked about for them. So looking at the potential changes, we'll go with Duo in the flex. Who's thinking? Juju, Sutton, Rondale Moore are all options. What are you guys thinking?
I'm keeping it the way they have it. I like Sutton. Sutton had 12 targets and 159 yards or whatever last week, and Judy's gone. He's going to get a lot of work. I think that you could maybe start thinking about benching Woods and putting in Juju, but I'm not going to do that. I think that the bed and breakfast combo over there is going to struggle a little bit this week, and it's going to be a Woods game. So, I like.
He's going to have a little Wood this week, huh?
Yeah, Wood's going to get in the way.
Little morning Wood, huh? Yeah. So good.
So yeah, I'm leaving it the way they have it.
All right. I would agree. The only thing that I would change right here, that I would consider changing, because I'm not big on Juju, would be Rondale Moore. But Rondale Moore is going to be such a boomer bust play. He had a couple really big receptions. And I'm just not quite at the point that I'm ready to put him in. But I think he has found his way to that number 2 option in Arizona. But I'm not ready to cement that, especially over Cortland Sutton against the Jets. I do think the Jets are still better than Jacksonville. Listen, they're both
bad.
But I think the Jets could put up points and make Denver throw the ball a little bit more, where I think Arizona could go to the ground and just run clock more. You said that Kyler Murray didn't need it need to do everything this week, I think they may fall onto that and just let it happen. So we'll see. But I'm keeping it the way it is. Rondale Moore has another solid week, and then you can start considering him as a flex option after this.
Yeah, looking at it myself, I'd keep it the same. I think if Judy was in Denver, then it becomes a much bigger question. But Sutton's getting all the work there, so take the volume. I'm starting to like Juju more, seeing how the Steelers are using him compared to last year, where Juju wasn't very targeted. He just seemed to be a little bit of an afterthought. This year, he's got 7 targets and 8 targets in his first 2 games. He had a rushing touchdown last week, so it definitely shows that they're trying to get him involved more. And I like to see that. Cincinnati is a serviceable defense, better than what I thought they were going to be. But I would expect Juju to continue to do well, not great. Sutton's the obvious pick, but I like Juju as a backup option. I don't think I'd bench Robert Woods yet for him, but honestly, this is the matchup for Robert Woods. If he doesn't do anything and it's still all Cup all the time, I think you have to start looking at that potential option that Robert Woods just isn't going to be as relevant as we thought. Rondale Moore is interesting, but they've got so many pass catchers there, plus a couple running backs who can do well. I think it's going to flip between who's getting what and who's in the game plan. Christian Kirk, Rondale Moore, AJ Green. Is it going to be an Edmonds game? Are they going to get James Conner more involved? So Rondale Moore will be a huge boomer bust option for him. I don't think this is the week to choose him for that.
So real quick, just because I did say that I was considering Juju, since the duo's playing Paul, if they're making a move, it's got to be to Rondale, not Juju. Juju's the floor play, the 40, 50, 60 yards, probably not a touchdown. Maybe he gets 70 or 80 yards, but I don't think Juju has that high ceiling anymore, and Rondale Moore definitely does. So if you're shooting for the stars because you're playing Paul this week, you have to make the pivot to Rondale Moore, not to Juju. But again, I think we all agree that we're leaving it as is.
Yep.
So looking at Paul's options here, he's got in the flex Edmonds. He's got Deontay Johnson on the bench. This guy's got an embarrassment of riches right now. What are you guys thinking with those matchups?
Yeah, I know Deontay Johnson's dealing with the knee issues. If it's me, I would play Marvin Jones over Chase Edmonds. Deontay Johnson is my first preference if he's healthy, but this week I didn't like how that knee injury looked. So even if he plays, I think that I would give him a week just to see how that goes. So if I'm Paul, I'm going Marvin Jones in the flex over Chase Edmonds, and I'm giving Deontay Johnson a week, even if he plays, just to see how he's doing.
Yeah. So I'm going to leave Chase Edmonds in. This is my floor play situation. I know Marvin Jones has hit double digits both weeks. He's had a touchdown both weeks. I'm not 100% sure he's going to get a touchdown this week, which lowers his floor. And Edmonds is going to get the ball. James Conner's looked bad. I think Edmonds is taking that role. They play Jacksonville. I think Edmonds is a safer play, knowing that you don't need a huge game out of that flex spot. I'm sticking Edmonds in there still.
Honestly, I think at this point, I feel safer with Marvin Jones's floor than Chase Edmonds. Chase Edmonds only had 8 carries last week. Marvin Jones has averaged 10 targets a week. So their touch volume is pretty similar. And the receiver's going to have more productivity per touch than the running back.
So, yeah, I don't disagree, but Chase Edmonds is also the receiving work out of the back. I mean, how many receiving opportunities is he going to have this week? I don't know. Are they going to need him to go? I don't know. Playing Jacksonville makes it rough. Jacksonville is going to have to keep throwing. So maybe Marvin Jones is the guy. But Arizona's defense isn't that bad either. So I don't know. I'm sticking with Edmonds. Boyer, what do you got? Go ahead and break us off here.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna stick with Edmonds too. Um, he had 5 targets last week to go with those 8 carries, and like the 8 carries is a little concerning. You'd like to see him have more on the grounds. I don't know if this is the game that they do it. This feels like a James Conner game a little bit, especially if they get up early. I could see them just, pounding it up the middle, trying to wear out the defense, run some clock a little bit. But because Edmonds has the ability out of the backfield, I think he gets those targets early. And so I like him going forward. Marvin Jones has had a surprising amount of volume. He's gotten some of that in garbage time. There should be garbage time here. I'm not going to rely on garbage time if I'm Paul because he doesn't need to. I think if Deontay Johnson is healthy, I'd probably pick him in the flex. But assuming he's not, I'm going to go with Edmonds. I'm not going to rely on garbage time. I'm just going to take my points in the flex and let the rest of my team crush duo into the dust.
So just real quick, garbage time is when you're hoping for the big points, which is fair. But volume is floor, right? Marvin Jones is getting 10 targets a week. Marvin Jones had 55 and a touchdown on 11 targets against the Denver secondary, which in my opinion is the best in the league. Arizona's defense is decent, but even if he doesn't get that touchdown, if Marvin Jones gets 11 targets and 55 yards this week as his floor, I think that's pretty damn good. That's more than I would consider Chase Edmonds' floor to be.
What? So Chase Edmonds, has he had a touchdown this year?
I don't think so.
No, and he's put up 10.6 and 7.5.
Sure.
So I mean, he's had over 100 yards and 75 yards. So, I mean, the same argument comes into play. He's gotten 75 and 100 plus without getting a touchdown. He gets a touchdown this week. I mean, Marvin Jones has had 2 touchdowns. He's had a touchdown a week already, and he's not that much ahead of where Edmonds is. So
That's fair.
that's where I'm leaning. Edmonds has to get a touchdown here at some point. Marvin Jones is riding a 2-touchdown streak. Doesn't mean he can't keep it going. But right now, without those touchdowns, Marvin Jones's floor is lower. So that's where I'm at. Anyway, I'm going to make one last change. I'm putting New Orleans versus New England instead of Pittsburgh against Cincinnati. I think Cincinnati plays the similar long ball game that Las Vegas did. Las Vegas blew off the top of Pittsburgh a couple times last week. And I think depending upon T. Higgins being healthy, if Higgins and Chase are both healthy, they could have a couple long passes over the top. I'm playing New Orleans against what I feel like is a not great New England offense. So that's the only other change I'm making.
I like that, Ty.
I am solidly sticking with the Steelers.
Boyers, are you going New Orleans or the Steelers?
You're gonna make me make a prediction or something. I don't know. I'm gonna go with New Orleans.
All right. Boyer, it's not good when me and you agree on things.
I know we got to stop doing that.
All right. So who's going to win this one?
Paul.
Paul.
All right.
All right. Moving on. Andy, jump us into Colin versus Boyer.
Yeah. So Colin has this is the bed and breakfast game, guys. Colin's got the bed, Boyer's got the breakfast. All right. So we'll call it a wash. Boyer smartly picked up Kirk Cousins and dropped that Jameis Winston fella that I was telling him wasn't as good last week. It only cost him a few fab. DJ Moore against Houston should have a good game. I said it earlier, but I think that Cooper Kupp of the bed and breakfast duo does not have his amazing game this week. I think the Tampa game plans against him a little bit, and that Robert Woods gets the work this week. He gets the productivity. Boyer's running backs are not good. They're just not. Clyde Edwards-Hilaire's not getting it done. Ronald Jones is not getting it done. Those teams throw the ball all day, every day. Waller against Miami is going to make up some of the difference. And then Brandon Cooks against Carolina is going to be good for you. That guy is Marvin Jones to the next level. He's Marvin Jones, but also super productive in the volume that he's seeing. So big game for him, but Colin's just got some tasty matchups here. Hopkins against Jacksonville, Najee against the Bengals, Jonathan Taylor against the Titans. I think Colin's just got too much at these other positions that Waller's not going to be able to keep you in it, Boyer. But that said, let's look at some lineup decisions. Right now, Colin's got Hollywood Brown in the flex. He's listed as questionable. He's got Waddle. He's got Fuller. I don't know how excited we are about that. Not really knowing who Brissett's going to want to throw to. Maybe give that a week to air out and see who's getting the looks. Ayuk against Green Bay, probably not. And then we come down to this interesting little fella here who was apparently worth $40 fab bid. Cordero Patterson, he of multi-position eligibility. So are you guys making a move, or are you keeping Hollywood in the flex?
I'm keeping Hollywood in.
Yeah, Hollywood stays in the flex. If he's injured, I would probably play Patterson.
Wow. All right. If he's injured, I'm playing Waddle. So
if he is injured, I'm playing Fuller.
All right. I'm okay with that. I think Fuller might be the guy, but he's coming off not playing for 2 games. So if I had to pick a guy that I wanted to get me fantasy protection, I'd have to go Waller in the first game.
Well, in Colin's situation, going for a floor play, not a boom play, I might go with a Patterson.
Honestly, both of those guys have such a low floor because the Dolphins' offense is bad. So,
but Waddle's played 2 games already and has shown that he can put up a handful of points.
Yeah.
Fuller hasn't played at all, but I still think Fuller is my option this week. I'm not changing anything, but if I had to.
Fair. And then on Boyer's side, I think Cooks' his flex is pretty locked in. So we're looking at RB2, Ronald Jones against the Rams versus Naeem Hines, Michael Carter, Jamal Williams, maybe. You could even throw Terrence Marshall on the list there, but I don't think you want to play Marshall and Moore. So I'm definitely not playing Carter against the Broncos. That's a bad choice. Jets are bad. Denver's defense is good. I think that if it were my team, I would play Jamal Williams against the Ravens instead of Ronald Jones against the Rams. But what do you guys think?
To be honest with you, I'm probably leaving Ronald Jones in, as much as I hate to say it. If I were to go elsewhere, I'm going to Michael Carter. I know that they got Denver. I know that the Jets are still the Jets. But he had a decent
decent game. Yeah.
He had a decent workload and a decent game last week. And I think that he's going to slowly be taking over that running back room. And I don't know what the hell to do with that Jets offense. So they may start using him more and more and just hoping that they can move the chains.
I agree with that. I just can't play him this week.
Right. That's why I'm saying I'm sticking with Ronald Jones.
But
if I had to move somebody, I think it would be Carter. All right, boy, where you at, man?
Yeah. So looking at this, man, my running back to position is rough, guys. It is rough. If anyone wants to trade me,
your RB1 to Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
I mean, that's the least of my problems, which is the problem. I'm not playing. I don't think I'm playing Ronald Jones against the Rams. He hasn't done anything against better matchups. I just can't imagine that he'll be efficient with the touches that he gets. Even if he gets another 8 or 9, he wasn't efficient last week when he should have been more efficient. I really have no confidence at this point in Ronald Jones. He could break off like a long touchdown or something stupid, crazy, but I just can't rely on that chance. Man, if Michael Carter could get like another 10 or 11 carries, that would make me feel better about the future. But I agree with Andy that for this week, I can't play him because I don't think he'll be as efficient in those 10 or 11 carries if he got them. But I would love to see it. Jamal Williams is a solid floor option. But I think I'm going to go. I'm leaning Hines right now, mainly because Tennessee's just a bad defense. They've had a couple shootouts in the first 2 weeks. And I'm like, at this point, I'm throwing stuff to the wall and hoping it sticks. Hines had a good week 1. Maybe in a shootout, he gets some of that volume back and he's able to, get a touchdown and maybe 50 yards together between rushes and targets, and gives me a solid running back week that I haven't had all year. So I'm thinking Hines just purely because of Tennessee's defense. It's not even because of Hines, it's just Tennessee's defense.
I thought when you were talking about that, I thought you were surely going to Gainwell just because of Dallas' defense isn't great. He's got some upside.
I mean, he does. The problem is that Miles Sanders has looked good enough this year that he's not conceding quite enough work to him. Like I think week 2 he did a little bit, or week 1 he did a little bit more, but I can't count on that. I think Hines will get more volume in this one. I have to hope it's a shootout and that he's got work in that shootout. Like, pray, just Hail Mary.
I get it. So, all right. So who's winning that one?
Colin.
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 Well, let's move on to tickle my flex spot versus my tightest end. Fryer versus Robby. Let's run down Robby's team real quick. Robby has Russell Wilson, Thielen. We'll talk about wide receiver 2. He's got Derrick Henry and Damian Harris, Tyler Higbee, Myles Gaskin currently in the flex, and a kicker in defense. So before we move over to Fryer, let's go ahead and just, is Boyer going to come back? We just keep going. We're going to keep going. Let's talk about.
He's probably being a dad. He's done it 3 weeks in a row.
Yeah, that's how life works for him. So let's talk about that wide receiver 2 position. He currently has Parker in there. He's got OBJ that you guys feel confident is coming back this week. And then he's got Ruggs. I mean, you could talk about Patrick if you want as well, because he's had touchdowns in the first 2 weeks.
Yeah, but he's only had 4 targets each week. I don't think that's what you want.
Right. No, I agree. But he's had 9 points each week. So at least it's an option if you want, but I'm not talking about it. So are you keeping Parker? You moving to OBJ? You going to Ruggs?
If OBJ's playing, I think I want OBJ in my lineup. There's just not a whole lot of other stuff to throw to in Cleveland. I'm assuming that they held him out for these 2 weeks so that he would come back healthy. And I expect him to do that this week. If he's not, I would go to Ruggs. Ruggs is practically Tim Patrick. He's only gotten 5 and 7 targets so far. But Carr's been airing it out. So
yep.
I like that combination. I would just feel better about Odell Beckham Jr. because I know that he's the number 1 option on that pass offense. Whereas Ruggs is dealing with Waller and Edwards and 4 other people.
Yeah. So I'm going to go to Ruggs right away.
Okay.
I just don't know. OBJ hasn't played in 2 weeks. We're not sure how that is going to play out. Chicago's secondary is not good. But I just don't know that I'm going to trust OBJ. He was not great last year. I mean, he was good in games, but not good in other games. I think that's the same that you can say for Ruggs right now.
Right.
He could have a good game. He could have a shit game. But if I guessing right now today, I'm taking Ruggs over OBJ against that Miami defense. I think Ruggs could have another long touchdown, and that would solidify him as a solid wide receiver 2. Boyer, Parker, Ruggs, or OBJ?
Man, that's a lot of crapola.
Said the guy starting Clyde Edwards-Helaire at number RB1.
Listen, we're not talking about my team right now, okay? We're talking about somebody else's team, and I'm happy that somebody else has just as tough a decisions as I do. Granted, Robbie's team is better than mine, but if Odell plays, I'm playing Odell.
That's what I said.
That's what
If he doesn't play, or if it looks like he may or may not play, and you're really wishy-washy on him, I'm probably going with Ruggs here. On the upside, week 1 was a little rough for him, but Derek Carr is airing it out. So, week 1, he still had 5 targets, 2 receptions, 46 yards. That's a lot of yards for just 2 receptions. So it kind of shows where he's at as far as where they use him on the field, which means if he gets a reception, it's going to be valuable. And I'm going to bank on him getting at least a couple of receptions. So I think that there's a solid enough floor there, and his upside is obviously huge because he could hit 1 or 2 big bombs with his speed and be awesome. So I think I'm going to go with Ruggs in that spot.
All right. So let's run down Fryer's team real quick. He's got Brady, Evans, and Claypool, Cook and Tyson Williams, George Kittle, and then Sterling Shepard in the flex and kicker and defense. You could throw, let's say, Emmanuel Sanders in. You could throw Laviska Shenault in. You guys talked about Connor maybe taking work there, but I don't imagine any of us are throwing him in the flex. Are you guys flexing, first off, Shepard or Claypool? Which one do you like more? Because Evans isn't probably coming out. And then who are you playing in the flex? So you need a wide receiver 2 and a flex here.
I'm going to be unpopular here.
Taking Mike Evans out?
But I am going to play Claypool for the upside and Connor for the floor. I feel like it projects as a James Conner game. Sterling Shepard's been really good this year, and Atlanta's defense has not been good. But this is more of a gut feeling than any sort of stat-based analytics. But if it's my team, I think Claypool and Big Ben have not connected on some of their deep throws, but they're there. So I don't want to take that out of the lineup. He's doing okay with what he is getting, and once some of those start coming in, he's going to have some pretty big weeks. And then this week only, I think James Conner in the flex is a good play.
Boyer?
I'm good with Claypool. Looking at Shepard versus Connor, because I think that's really where this is really the only 2 other options he has. I'm not a big Shenault fan at this point in the season. He's coming, I think he had some sort of injury or got a knock in the previous game. So I'm okay with leaving him on the bench. So I'm looking at who's proven it so far. And in week 1, James Conner had 16 attempts against a not great Tennessee defense and only managed 53 yards. He doesn't have a touchdown yet on the year. So I think you're just banking on him vulturing some sort of touchdown or getting like a ridiculous amount of, second half work. Meanwhile, Shepard has like 9 and 10 targets on the year in week 1 and 2. He's done a lot with those targets. I think he's more likely to be just fine. I think he's got a higher floor, has a higher ceiling. I don't really see any reason why I wouldn't play Sterling Shepard. I get where Andy's gut is coming from, but the numbers are telling me that Shepard has proven it, and he should stay in Fryer's lineup until proven otherwise.
Okay. Andy, where's Claypool go on the field?
He goes down the field.
Okay, and Big Ben is dealing with a pectoral injury.
His boob hurts?
Yes, his boob hurts, and they're saying that it's causing pain when he throws the ball.
That's not good for your quarterback.
Are we sure it's not just a heart attack? He's getting older.
He's getting older.
But anyway, I'm sitting Claypool this week. I know that's probably the most unpopular opinion out of all of this. I'm sitting Claypool. I'm moving Shepard. Well, it doesn't really matter who I move there, but I'm putting LaVisca Chenault in for this week and leaving Shepard in my lineup as well. I think that that Arizona defense targets Marvin Jones, which opens up something for Chenault. I don't know how much there's going to be, but I do not like Claypool this week.
Fair.
So-
I'm okay with you not liking Claypool. I'm less okay with you deciding that Chenault is a good play.
Well, it's always debating on Sanders,
Yeah.
but I don't know if I could trust Sanders either. I mean, he has had more targets. He's put up 52 and 48 yards. So maybe that's your safer floor play, but I don't think Sanders is going to have a big blow up game.
Probably
where
not.
Chenault could have a long play. That's really all I'm basing it on. Chenault could have a big play. And
So here's the
that's-
stats on Chenault that
I know-
will not
I
be
know
starting
there's-
him.
I know
He's got 17 targets for 47 yards. That's less than 3 yards per target.
Yeah. So for those people at home without the numbers in front of them, in week 2, Chenault had 7 targets, 2 receptions for -3 yards. That's rough.
Yeah, that is pulling those down a little bit. But even in week 1, when he had 10 targets, he only got 50 yards. Like,
Yep.
I don't
Right,
think that there's a lot of
but his-
excitement there.
But his floor is -3 yards. That's a rough floor.
That is a rough floor. That's like a Ronald Jones floor.
Yes, exactly. Thank you. Somebody who gets it.
I'm not saying Chenault is listen, I don't like this option at all, but I think Chenault has a possibility this week. He's gotten targeted. He just hasn't done anything with it. This week is going to be the week he does something with it. All right, leave me alone. Let me have my takes and let's move on. All right, who's going to win this matchup?
Robby.
Boyer?
Man. So part of the reason why Fryer was able to beat me and put up 116 points, not even beat me, put up 116 points, was Brady and Evans had Atlanta, and that stack worked well for him. That stack now has the Rams. I don't think it puts up the same numbers. I'm going to go with Robby.
Yep, I'm also going with Robby. So
That's
sorry,
boring.
Brian.
One thing
Unless
I will say
Unless
is,
LaVisca has a blow up game and then Friday you got a chance.
Dalvin Cook is playing against the Seahawks, who just beat my ass by letting Derrick Henry do whatever he wanted to them in the second half last week. So the script could be flipped for Robby this week with Dalvin Cook playing against the Seahawks, but I still think Robbie's got enough to get it done.
Yeah, but the Indy defense hasn't been great either. So,
True.
and Henry's got them. So, all right, you guys ready to move on to a new segment, to our newer segment?
Please.
All right. So I got a couple of these coming at you. All right, just go with it.
I'm
Dad
excited.
joke time.
So I like to tell Dad jokes. He doesn't laugh very often. Yeah? Huh? All right. Not a good one. All right, we'll move on. So I was going to tell you guys a time travel joke, but you guys didn't like it. Why were the Indians here first? Can I say Indians? Why were the Indians here first? Because they had reservations. Yes. Nailed it. All 3 of them. Great jokes. Let's move on.
We're losing viewers fast. Someone please tell us what other segment. Maybe you want us to bring back Boyer's Bullshit Corner. Maybe you have an idea for your own thing. Maybe you're a sponsor and you want us to talk about you and your lovely brand instead of whatever the hell that was.
You didn't like my joke.
Comment below.
You didn't
Mine-
like my joke?
I'm waiting for like a dad joke brand of something to come to us and say, hey, we want you to do the exact same thing you're doing right now, except mention we have a website or something.
They're going to say, hey, we want you to stop.
A cease and
Please
desist
don't
order
tell me anymore.
for sure. Their lawyers will be in contact with our lawyers.
All right. Anyway, I nailed those dad jokes. Sorry you guys had to listen to them. Andy, hit us with a quick power rankings.
Sure. So I've got Paul at number 1. I debated moving him up to a number 0 that's never been seen before, just because number 1 doesn't feel high enough. Paul, I've been talking about having that core of Mahomes, McCaffrey, DK Metcalf, and Aaron Jones. Well, you can add frickin' Gronk and Debo to it because his whole team is just terrifying so far. Jeremy's still at number 2. I've got me up a spot to number 3, Ty down a spot to number 4. I've got Colin up 1 to number 5, Fryer down 1 to number 6, Chris holding steady at 7, Robby up 2 to number 8. Robby's the 4th highest scoring team in the league, and each week he's done it with different players, which is working for him, but that makes his team pretty boom and bust, and you got to hope that it balances out week to week. I've got Charlie holding steady at number 9. Duo drops 2 spots to number 10. They gave Walker his first win, so they get to fall 2 spots. I don't really care who's on their team at this point. It just seems fair that if you lose to Walker, you have to fall. And Boyer and Walker rounding out the power rankings where they were last week.
All right. On that note, like, subscribe, comment. Tell us how much you hate my dad jokes. Other than that, I love all of you that subscribe, all of you that have never commented. I don't love. But other than that, I guess we'll come back at you next week. See ya.